Hey folks, this is Steve with Nonprofit Ally. Today we're going to be talking about crowdfunding and in particular how to set up a successful crowdfunding campaign. Now, one of the first things you may be tempted to do when you go to start a crowdfunding campaign is to go to a platform like Kickstarter or GoFundMe, sign up for the service, put your information in there and set it up and make it live. I want to tell you right away that if you want to have a successful campaign that raises $10,000, that is not the approach you want to take. There's a lot of preparation prior to turning on that campaign that needs to get done that will allow you to have a more successful campaign. And that's what we're going to go over today. So let's get started. The very first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have a team set up. So you're going to have to send out an email to your friends and family and supporters and volunteers and board members and say, hey, we're going to do a crowdfunding campaign. Who is going to be a part of this team? And then have a meeting. So gather that team and have them meet together at your library, your boardroom. Now during that meeting, you're going to have to set the tone for the pace of this campaign because it involves teamwork. The more team members who help provide content or hours of volunteer work or whatever it is you're doing, phone calls, etc., the more successful this campaign is going to be. So you're going to have to let everyone know that this is it's a somewhat intensive period. It involves a bit of work, but boy, the rewards can be, it's worth it. It's very worth it when the rewards come in. So when you're sitting with that team, here's what you're going to talk to them about. First of all, you're going to say, hey folks, we're going to have to create content because our campaign page is going to have to, we're going to have to pitch what we're raising money for. So we need content, and there's lots of different content to be created. I'm going to go over the content creation. That's part 2. So we're going to have to create content. Who's going to help create that? Who's going to set up the actual page when we decide to launch? Who's going to set up the GoFundMe or Fundly page that you're going to do? Who's going to send those thank yous and track those thank yous and make sure that everyone who donates gets a thank you or a follow-up phone call? Who's going to be responsible to update our social media page? Who's going to deposit the money if when we get checks sent in? So who's going to be doing that? So all these, as detailed as you can get, and all the roles that are going to be necessary to be filled throughout this campaign, you want to line those up and have people volunteer for that. So when you, as the director or whoever is organizing this campaign, when those checks come in, can be like, send an email, hey Beth, the checks are here waiting for deposit, please come pick them up. And so that you're not doing every single task because you're going to burn yourself out, but you have volunteers, board members, etc., staff who are taking care of the minutia that's going to be involved in making this a successful campaign. Who's going to post the flyers around town? Who's going to send out, who's going to solicit the donors, maybe by phone call? Who's going to track those donors and put them into your donor database? You know, etc., etc. So all the details you can think of at this team meeting are the things you need people to volunteer for. Now, once you have the volunteers gathered, in this same meeting, I would go over the next part, which is content creation. Because in order to have a successful campaign, you need to have really good content on that campaign page that really moves people. It's emotional, it's informational, etc. So we're going to go over the pieces of that. Now, before you even get started with the content, there's a few questions you're going to have to ask yourselves. And these are things you need. The more specific your answers, the better content you're going to be able to create. So those questions are, obviously the first question, how much money are you going to raise? We'll just say $10,000, good round number. So $10,000, you've agreed on that. Our goal is $10,000. Next thing you want to ask is, why are we raising this money? The better, not the better, but the more specific the purpose is for the reason that you're raising the money, the more likely you are going to convert visitors into donors. It's just the way it works with donors. If you're like, well, we're just raising money because we need to pay staff and the electric bill, it's not very motivating. Your campaign pitch, your content is going to be very bland. But if you're like, we need to raise it for a new vehicle so that we can deliver food to the schools for people who are have social economical issues or whatever it is, right? Or we're getting new books for our tutors who go into the after-school programs, and we need $5,000 for the software and the iPads to do this, you know, to deliver the tutoring content. So the more specific, the better. Now, you want to also know, prior to creating the content, who are you going to be serving? this $10,000 that you're raising, identify who is going to benefit from this, and also you want to make sure you know how it's going to help them. So who you're helping and how is it helping them, right? Then as you go through this, you're going to have to figure out, when are we launching this campaign? These are important things to know prior to creating your content. So August 1st we start, or December 1st, whatever the date is, you have that launch date. And then ask yourself, when are we going to be closing the campaign? You need a deadline. Deadlines make the difference. There's a couple things that I'm going to go over in a little more detail here about. One, picking the amount of money you're going to raise, and having a deadline. Now, I've been through boards where it's like, well, let's just raise as much as we can. Why do we need a limit? Well, you need to have an amount, $10,000 in this case, so that people can track it. Every crowdfunding campaign every crowdfunding platform is going to have, a little thermometer, a little meter down at the bottom that's telling you, hey, they're 30% of the way to the goal, they're 50% of the way to the goal. And the closer you get to that goal, the more conversions you are going to get. So if you don't have a goal, if you're like, we just need to raise a bunch of money, there's no goal to reach, you're not going to motivate your donors. Also make sure that goal is realistic. Great, 10,000 is what you need. Why not ask for 20? I've had board members say, well, let's go for 30. Well, the problem with that is that donation bar at the bottom that's tracking the amount of donors you're getting has a psychological effect on your donors. If there is only this much of that bar filled, of that much, if only 20 or 30% of it is filled, people are like, this is going slow, they're not going to donate. Donors donate to campaigns that look like they're going to succeed. So put a realistic number that you are certain you're going to be able to reach. Maybe stretch it a little bit, So you're up to $10,000 or whatever your goal is that you think you can reach, and then maybe stretch it by 10% to really try to get that, to motivate your crew that's going to be helping you make this campaign. But don't go astronomical. Don't go 50,000, or just don't go way above the number you need. Because if you can't reach 50%, if you can't reach 70%, of your goal, if you can't reach 90% of your goal, people are not going to donate. It's just the way it is. So make sure you have a realistic number, and then you need a timeline. You need a deadline, because there is a reverse bell curve that happens with most fundraising, but crowdfunding in particular. Basically, when you start your campaign, boom, right when it launches, you get a bunch of donations, and then after the first week or two, it drops down. And then towards the end of the campaign, hey, we're reaching our goal, and then it goes back up again. It's a reverse bell curve. You get most of your donations at the front and back end of your campaign. So you need a timeline. And that timeline length is up to you, but the average timeline is 7 to 9 weeks. 7 to 9 weeks. So you're looking around 2 months to have your crowdfunding campaign last. So now, we've answered the questions. Who benefits, how much, how long is it going to be, why are we doing it, and how do they benefit from it. Also, you're going to make sure that you know what your budget is, because you're going to be spending your own money to do this, because you're going to have to pay for flyers and postage and possibly perk awards that you're going to be offering. Let's make this content. The content you need to make, and the more pre-made content you have, the better your campaign is going to be. You want to make sure you have your solicitation ready. So you have your who are we, why are we doing this, what we're about, how is it going to benefit people, tell some stories within that, and maybe make a 500 to 800 word pitch that is going to be the main content on your campaign page, so people read it and they're like, okay, this is why they're doing it, I've heard their story, it's emotional, it's moving. So 500 to 800 words, make that pitch, right? And there's ways to craft that is outside the scope of this video here, but there's ways to craft that pitch. Now, you're also going to have your email solicitations, because on day one, when you start this campaign, you don't just turn it on. You're going to send an email to everybody that you can think of on your whole mailing list, your friends, your family, and that email needs to be crafted, right? You need to craft it with hey, we're starting the campaign, this is who it's going to serve, these are the 3 things we've done in the past, and boy, we can't wait to further our mission. Please donate today. Thank you, Steve, Executive Director of my nonprofit, right? So you have that email ready to go. Have your thank you emails written already. So when someone donates, that email goes right out to them. And most crowdfunding campaigns will have an automated process of saying thank you. So basically you take that pre-made thank you letter email, or letter, you can mail one too if you like, and stick it in there and it gets sent out automatically. So write that thank you letter, have that made ahead of time. Figure out what your milestones are going to be throughout this campaign. When we reach 1,000, when we reach 5,000, when we reach $10,000, what are your milestones? Timelines are milestones. We're 2 weeks into the campaign. We're 4 weeks into the campaign. Other milestones may be your followers. We've got 100 new followers. We have 500 new followers. Take those milestones and turn it into content, because you want to keep your audience involved in your crowdfunding campaign. So as you reach these milestones, you want to put a blog post out there, or a social media post, or maybe a quick email to your followers. Hey, we've reached $2,500. We are 1/4 of the way through to our goal. This is very exciting because we're only 2 weeks into it. Hey, if you haven't donated yet, please donate now. Have that email ready to go for that milestone. Have the social media post with the picture of a smiling person with a check or whatever set to go. So when those milestones reach, you just plug them in and hit play. Well, not play, but plug, and you upload them in, and they get posted on your website. They get posted on your crowdfunding campaign. They go to your social media, or it goes out to the people on your email list. So benchmark content is really good to have. Now ahead of time, you're also going to want to know what your incentives are going to be. Some campaigns don't have them, and actually some crowdfunding platforms don't have this mechanism integrated in their system. But basically a perk award is saying, hey, you donate $100, you get a coffee mug. You donate $500, you get tickets to our annual event. You donate $1,000, you get a free whatever, right? So you offer these perk awards based on the level of donation that you get. So if you're going to have them, figure out what levels are going to be, $50, $100, $200. And then if it's going to be, hey, you get a mug, who's going to get the mugs? Who's going to deliver the mugs? Who's going to post them to the people who have signed up for that perk? So that is stuff you're going to have pre-planned and most likely ordered prior to starting your campaign. And the other thing you're going to have pre-made is your video, right? You need to have content that is digestible, that people are going to engage with, that is appealing. The number one, it's across the board, the number one way of reaching your audience is through a video. And so your video should be 3 to 5 minutes long. Boy, I've seen some 10-minute ones that are just hard to watch. 3 to 5 minutes is the perfect way to tell your story, right? If you just can't do video, then a slideshow with a voiceover could work. What images are you going to put on there? So all this content needs to be gathered, at which point you need to figure out who's making the video. Is it within our budget? Are we doing it in-house? And you're going to have to create that content. All of this, gathering your team, creating your content, picking your platform, all this takes place, I would give yourself a good month, if not 2 months in advance to get all this set up for your campaign. It takes planning to have a successful campaign. So we've gathered our team, we've answered our how much, who's going to benefit, why we're asking for this money, etc. We've answered those questions, and we've plugged all those answers into content, emails, newsletters, thank yous, benchmarks, and our pitch, our main pitch, and a video or a slideshow of some type. So now we have our team and our content. Now we can go ahead and pick our platform. What I mean by platform is what social media campaign platform, software are you going to be using. There's Kickstarter, there's GoFundMe, there's Fundly, there's Fundraiser, there's hundreds of them. So you're going to have to figure out which one is best for you, because some of them are only for, like Kickstarter, which is a very popular one, is for artists. So if you don't have some type of art-related, design-related, music-related fundraiser, chances are you're not going to be able to use Kickstarter, right? So there's other ones out there. There's ones that are specifically for nonprofits. There are some that are for people who are starting a new business or have a new product. So there's crowdfunding platforms for any type of fundraising. There's crowdfunding platforms that allow you to do anything. My dog needs a surgery. So pick the one that is best suited towards what you're doing. Likely not a one that serves nonprofits. And at which point, if you're still not sure, check out the other campaigns that the crowdfunding platform is supporting, right? So which ones are on there, which ones have been successful, are they similar to yours? Then you know that the audience that goes to that crowdfunding page is similar to the audience you're trying to reach. So see what other campaigns are out there and if they're similar to yours. Now when you're checking out these platforms, you want to make sure, one, they allow multimedia, right? So they allow you to post a video on the page. They have a really easy, quick way to donate. They have a donate now button that, boom, allows people to donate money within 2 clicks, right? That's important too. You want to make sure that your crowdfunding campaign can connect to your social media so that when you're setting it up, you can enter in your Facebook and your Twitter and your YouTube or whatever, your social media accounts, and that so when people donate to the crowdfunding campaign, boom, it automatically gets posted to your social media page just by connecting it. And most crowdfunding campaigns allow that. You want to see if you can import your mailing list. Does the crowdfunding campaign support a mailing list? Can you send emails out from the campaign and import your already existing mail list into that? It's not a huge deal. If you have to use your own mailing list and your own service provider for that, that's fine, but it does make it easier if it's integrated within the system. You want to check the fees of the crowdfunding campaign because each crowdfunding platform charges its own fees. Some charge 2%, some charge 5%, some charge 12%. And then on top of that, you have to realize you have your credit card processing fees, which may be 2 to 5%. So you may end up spending 15% of the money that you take in goes to the crowdfunding platform and the credit card processing fees. So also, another thing you want to check is, do you get to keep the money you've raised if you don't reach your goal? Right? That seems like a no-brainer, but there are quite a few platforms out there, and Kickstarter being one of them, that if you say I want to raise $10,000 and you only raise $9,000, you don't get to keep that money. Now, that brings the question, who does keep that money? And I haven't done enough investigation to figure that one out because I don't use platforms that don't allow me to keep the money that I've raised even if I don't reach my goal. So make sure when you sign up that you know whether or not, if you don't reach your goal, that you're still going to get the money or you're not going to get your money, right? Which may be a motivator to make sure you reach your goal. Now, you want to be able to have a platform that allows you to post updates to that platform page. And most of them have that. It's kind of like having a blog or a latest news page. And most of them you can log in and say, hey, today we reached our milestone. We're going to post it on our platform here, as well as your social media and maybe an email out to your supporters. And again, you want to make sure if you're planning to have some incentives or perks, like, hey, if you donate $50, you get a coffee mug, that the platform has an area on their page to allow you to do that. And quite a few of them do have that. I know Fundly does, Fundraiser does, Kickstarter does for sure. The other thing that you want to check is, there's a few things. So can you customize that page? Can you make that page, when you log in and sign in, can you change the color scheme or the background or things like that of the crowdfunding campaign page to look similar to your own website or similar to your own logo? Then it looks, it just looks a little more professional that way. Can you have your own URL, your own domain name? So I know Fundly, which is the one I've used in the past, allowed me to create my own domain name. I still fundly.com, but it was /Noble Paws, which was my nonprofit. So I was able to make it easy for people to find. It wasn't like fundly.com /10029, etc. Right? It made sense. I was able to customize that URL. And then one more thing to think about too, and I know I'm giving you a long list, but there's lots to think about as you do this. The last thing I would really make sure is that when you sign up, so say you get all your content, your team's gathered, you have your video ready, and you're like, cool, we're launching, in a week. Let's get in there and make this page, and you go in there and you make the page, and then you realize the crowdfunding platform you need requires approval. You're actually going to have to submit to them this is what I want to do, this is the money we're trying to raise, and this is why we're raising it. Will you approve this? I know that Kickstarter has an approval process, and maybe 30% of the crowdfunding campaigns out there, crowdfunding platforms out there, require some type of approval process. Others, you can go in there, you can set up a page for your dog's broken leg, and you can have it live in 5 minutes, no approval process necessary. So check on that, because if you get all this set up and you're thinking you're going to launch in 3 days and you're there plugging it in there and you realize it's a 2-week approval process, then your campaign obviously gets in a bit of trouble. So gather your team, create your content, and then pick your platform, at which point sign up for the platform and start putting all that content that you have made up on there. And then you have your launch date set, so that December 1st date, when it comes, you turn on that campaign. All your content is on there, your video is ready, your perk awards are up there, and people can start donating right away. Your email that says, hey folks, we're starting a great campaign, support us now, gets sent out to your 500 people that are signed up for your email list, and your campaign is launched, right? So after you have all that set up, you pick that platform, you plug in all that content, and then you turn it on. At that point, you're working. You're going through the campaign, you're keeping track of your donors, you're thanking them, you're reaching your milestones, you're making announcements of all the milestones that you reach on your social media, through newsletters. You're just working that timeline. So you have to have that part mapped out. So this video is about preparing for the launch. So we're up to that point. We've launched. I'll do another video in the future about working that campaign throughout that 6-week to 9-week time period where that crowdfunding campaign is going on. How are you continually feeding it content, getting more donors, keeping everyone motivated, from your donors to your supporters to your volunteers to yourself, right? And you're going to work that timeline. So we'll talk about that in a later video. So, folks, that's it. Summing up, gather your team. Make sure you have plenty of volunteers and assign them some jobs and tasks to do. Make sure that you're as detailed as possible in that, so that the person running the campaign can just delegate out these things, and like, the checks are ready, make sure that email is ready, we reached this milestone, who's creating the content for the social media platform, all that kind of stuff, right? And then so you can, it makes it more efficient. And then start creating all that content ahead of time, pick your platform, set it all up, and then turn it on. All right, folks. Hey, I appreciate you watching this video. I hope it was helpful. You can leave a comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're on our on the nonprofitally.com website. You can leave a comment below. I'd love to get your feedback on what you thought of this video and what other type of content you'd like to see. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. It's always great to hear. We loved your feedback. And until next time, folks, have a great day. Thank you so much for watching.